And we've got more on the kind of mode that India is in since that understanding with Pakistan through the DGMOs. Well, according to sources, there will be no talks at the NSA level between India and Pakistan. It will be held only at the level of DGMOs. Also, there won't be any mediator in, and the talks with Pakistan, these will be on the handing over of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and terrorists responsible for attacks on India. For more updates, we're joined by DD India's Jessica Taneja from our newsroom. Jessica, tell us, this message that has been put out, really, I won't ask you who the sources are because that is not something that is really needed. But it's clear that India is putting down terms for when the DGMOs talk next on Monday.
That's correct, Gautam. And what we're given to understand at this point is that only direct talks between the two countries, Director General of Military Operations, will now henceforth go forward. No other talks that we're given to understand will take place. No third parties, no preconditions, no post-conditions as well. Given the fluidity of the situation that we're in and the further escalation that we're could possibly see from Pakistan if there is again, another misadventure. Well, let's hope not there is, but if there is, it will be met with a befitting military action as has been promised to the country of India when it comes to its right to self-defend. But also important to focus, Gautam, here is the point where India has said that in terms of its international outreach to the international world, as well as the community and the leaders that in the past all the higher ups and the officials have spoken to, there has been a sense of solidarity, and but there has been some concern expressed as well. But overwhelmingly, there has been solidarity and support of India's actions against terrorism, be it the United States or the United Kingdom, especially the P5 countries. Now, with India, the particular focus right now would also be looking at other kinds of actions apart from the kinetic, non-kinetic actions that we've taken on the diplomatic front as well. All our allies and partners have been made aware and given dossiers of proof in the past as well, and even this time around as to how the terrorist camps and the terrorist bases that were targeted both within POK and inside Pakistan were in a sense justified because this is the concern India raised for so long, and now it has ample proof to show that the measures that India take were in fact non-escalatory and measured in a sense very targeted to sort of only tackle the real enemy India is looking at, which is the terrorists, and in fact some responsibility and accountability from both the civilian government, the military, and the ISI. To put a stop to this and finally take matters at hand and sort of give some accountability in a sense where these terror funding and these groups would eventually be not allowed to emanate from Pakistan. But that hasn't been the case, and this has been the clear messaging of India to all its partners across the world.
And is it markedly different from way India has responded in the past when Pakistan again indulged in similar acts of terror in recent years as well? Here I'm referring to Uri and to Balakot.
Right, because this is a new normal, as we're given to understand, Gautam. Things are not the same as the way they were before. If you look at what happened at Uri or Pathankot, even with Pulwama in February 2019, the response and the measured, retribution, so to say, also from the Indian side has been that we will eradicate those terror bases and those terror camps. And if you look at the kind of action India has taken and its, defense forces have taken, especially on the night of May 7th, that it is particularly important to point out that the terror camps and facilities that were targeted had a greater role to play in perpetrating, and orchestrating terror activities in India, not just now, but for many decades, because it has, of course, again become an identity and existential crisis as well for the Pakistan, the military, and the ISI to continue to simmer tensions, to continue to, keep the issues alive in Kashmir. Although the valley seemed to be moving in a direction where there were economic gains and advantages both for people and for the rest of the country as well. But if you look at coming back to the point where the military bases were targeted, you look at, Bhavalpur, you have Muridke, you have Muzaffarabad. These three were very important bases. In fact, if you talk about, Muridke, the Lashkar camp, the Markaz-e-Taiba, that facility is as huge as, in fact, a military compound, and it has, it is spread across 200 acres, Gautam. And in fact, the kind of funding it receives, the kind of both the Pakistani politicians as well as the higher ups of the military as well as the ISI are in constant touch with them. There has been constant funding to them, and this is the very Markaz-e-Taiba that had trained, both Ajmal Kasab, responsible for 26/11 terror attacks, as well as David Headley. And these are, confessions made on tape, on record, that these were the training facilities. So in a way, India has also given out a clear message that this is not limited to just a response to what you did. This time, the response that India is, the message that India is trying to send, that this is going to be the new normal. You hit us, we hit you. You want to talk, we will talk.
Right. And let's also talk about the kind of messaging the other side has been trying to put across, saying that it's a historic victory for Pakistan. How are they seeing it as a historic victory when India has left them in a position where their DGMO had to reach out to our DGMO and seek this understanding that has been arrived at?
Absolutely correct, Gautam, because yesterday when we were given to understand that at 3:35 approximately, the Pakistan DGMO had called up his Indian counterpart and requested for this understanding where there would be stoppage of firing, and these, understandings were then taken into consideration by both Army, Navy and Air Force. Now, preceding that as well, look what happened on, the night before that. There were, while Pakistan attacked 26 places, Pakistan military attacked 26 places that night in India, but India responded well by, targeting 8 important strategic, bases as well, air bases, one very close to Rawalpindi, and that seemed to have, given the Pakistanis, some would even say, an off-ramp, because that is where it's given to understand that the Pakistanis wanted to take now the conversation forward, because I think the cost of war was too much to continue with. And given the kind of economic constraints Pakistan has, I mean, just recently they've been given a bailout to approximately $1 billion, which is part of the 37-year IMF bailout program. Now look at how the country is dealing with its external debt, which stands at $130 billion. A country whose people, 2.6 million people are still below poverty line. 40% of 40 to 42% of them, and that sort of gives you an indication that the cost of war is too much on all fronts, not just on the military front, but the sophistication that they need to match when it comes to the Indian tech and the Indian military and the Indian defense advancement, especially with how India has rapidly modernized its defense, compared to what Pakistan has. Of course, they haven't been able to have that kind of budget because they've not seen economic growth to that extent, but India has, and it has been able to modernize its defense. And perhaps the result is known quite clearly when air defense system of Lahore was neutralized. So all of these events seem to suggest now that Pakistan is on back foot in a certain way, and talks is what it would prefer, because the cost of war right now, Gautam, is just too much for them.
Yes, it's just too much for them as well, and perhaps even a lot of countries around the world feel that that the cost of war will be too much for everyone. Which is why it seems that there was a lot of noise around how immediately one needs to stop these hostilities, and ultimately it was Pakistan which waved the white flag. Jessica.
That's correct, because when you talk about, as I said, those 8 crucial bases that were targeted, and the Pakistanis, I think, have had an understanding internally, and after all the assessment made, it's fairly believable that the devastation, the destruction to an extent would have made them choose that option, apart from the other factors, as I already mentioned. When that assessment comes in, it certainly had to be from the Pakistani side initiating that call, though there were talks about mediators, and sources have also clarified that it is not completely the US mediation, etc. It is in fact that the Pakistan DGMO made that call to his Indian counterpart because of the losses, the military losses, the heavy losses that they've been witnessing, and something that should have taken care of. For India's part, these were terror camps. These were not ordinary civilian infrastructures, military infrastructures, economic related to economic activity of daily life. They were simply training facilities for terrorists who have time and again created disruptions and tried to thwart India's economic gains in some way or the other, be it in Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir or anywhere else in the country. These attempts have been made time and time again to keep the issue alive, wherein India has tried to move on towards becoming the third biggest economy in the world soon. Gautam.
And I believe that we're likely to hear more from our defense establishment in just a while from now as well, Jessica?
That's correct. In a short while, we'll be hearing from our defense establishment as well as to what all has been concluded so far, and they will also give out the details of the 8 bases that were the 8 places that were targeted, among them one close to very Rawalpindi that has incurred a significant loss at this point, and as I told you, that may have been from what we gather as reports and a moment for off-ramp for the Pakistanis, where that call was then initiated, because again, as I said, the cost of war is just too much for Pakistan, be it military might. We're not going to go into those comparisons because there is ample proof of it, and not that India is looking for escalation. It is Pakistan who is the original escalator, and India is merely responding to terrorist attacks on its soil just like any other country would. Gautam.
Certainly, certainly. Jessica, you keep an eye out for what comes next. I believe it is that briefing that will take place in a short while from now. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being.